Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, February the 7th, 2018, show number 1163. I'm your host, Shawn King, joined as always
by Melissa King.
The cute one. She thinks she's hideous. Can you believe that cute little face, little
Just
angelic
today.
face, thinks she's hideous? And she hates her clothes, so she's not wearing pants. So
Oh my God!
just want to let you guys know that.
Oh my God!
Hideous and not wearing pants. So
Oh dear!
one of those
Oh,
two-
see, cinnamon! Oh my.
On tonight's show,
I agree, Monty.
On tonight's show, as always, we talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim got his HomePod. He got it for review. He posted a review on The Loop. And he also got a tour of Apple's audio lab, this really cool anechoic chamber. We'll talk to him about that. In our starting point photography segment, we're going to talk about more iPhoneography tips, how to take better pictures with your iPhone. I ran through that section because I wanted to get to this part of the story. This has got to be the funniest story I've read all week. And surprisingly enough, this is a Canadian story. This is a story you'd expect from America, but it's Canadian.
Oh yeah.
Woman sues ex-boyfriend for half of $6 million lottery prize. A Chatham, Ontario woman is hoping a jury will help her claim more than $3 million has been stuck in legal limbo since her ex-boyfriend cashed in a winning lottery ticket, half of which she says belongs to her. She filed a statement of claim for breach of trust, unjust enrichment, conversion, deceit, and general damages. I did not know you could file for deceit.
No. Wow.
Her lawyer said she's also seeking a declaration that she is the owner of half the winnings, plus $500,000 in damages, and that Thibault cover her court costs. This is hilarious. Robertson and Thibault, the man and the woman, have been fighting over the winning since last year after a ticket he bought won $6.1 million. The kicker is, Thibault did not tell her and moved out days later.
I mean,
this might be the biggest jerk in Canada.
just awful.
You're an awful human being.
He is
okay?
an awful. I agree.
She maintains that they had an agreement to share any lottery winnings, a claim he denies. This is the best part. This is the money quote in the story from his lawyer. His lawyer said he purchased the ticket, he won the ticket, he has claimed the prize. He's a good and honest man, and what is at stake here is his reputation. Dude, you moved out! All right, you moved out! Okay, that just says everything you need to say about how you felt about her.
It does. It's his reputation in a nutshell.
That's right, exactly. You're a jerk.
Yes.
You're a complete a-hole.
Yeah.
Give her the $3 million and just go away, okay?
Yeah.
Just don't keep the whole thing. Because apparently, now, I think it's the same in the States. She alleges that she and him have been a common law relationship and buying Lotto 649, that's our version of Powerball here in Canada, and splitting the winnings for years. Years, plural. Now, common law is, I believe in Canada, if you're living together for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's 2 years.
As if you're a man and wife. Mm-hmm. That's common law.
And everything legal around that is applicable to you.
Exactly. Anything that's legal to a marriage is applicable to a common law relationship in Canada. And I'm pretty sure in the States. So if they've been buying those tickets and splitting them, they've set a precedent.
Yes.
Even if they haven't, if they're common law and he won the money, she gets half in the divorce. That's just the way it works, dummy.
Yeah. I guess they're divorced now that he moved out.
But here's another fun part of it. After hearing about 2 winning tickets, one sold in Chatham, Ontario, where they lived, and one in Quebec that would split a $12 million jackpot, she excitedly texted him about the possibility they could be millionaires. But when he got home, she says that he said they did not win. Days later, Thibault, him, left for work and did not come back. She said she came home to find his clothes and passport gone and later learned he had quit his job. But his reputation's at stake. You may be the biggest asshole in Canada right now, okay? But you had a really interesting point about this. Do you remember when we were first talking about this?
I never remember my interesting point.
You should write these down. But you said, what was said something about that winning a lottery ticket like that on your own. I bought the ticket. I go check the ticket. I see I've won $6 million. There, right at that moment, the strength of your relationship will be tested.
Oh yes, that's what I said. Well, what would a lot of people do in that moment?
Folks, do not ask your significant other
What would
about
you do?
that. What would you do? Right? Because A, they're going to lie to you.
Yes, and then you'll be wondering.
Exactly. Because I got to believe a large number, maybe not the majority, but a large number of people might go, yeah, I'm out of here.
No.
It reminds me of the old joke of the guy who calls his wife up and says, honey, guess what? We won the lottery. We're millionaires. No, sorry. Hey, honey, guess what? We won, or I would, what is it? The wording is important. Guess what? Our lottery numbers came in, or something along those lines. And she says, no, honey, I won the lottery. Pack your bags. She goes, that's fantastic. Should I pack for a warm climate or a cold one? He says, I don't care. Just be gone by the time I get home.
Oh.
I fucked that joke up. But anyway.
But it's really frightening if you think about that question. Like,
yeah, it's not a question you want to ask.
You don't even want to think it.
No.
And then you think, well, what would you do? Like, ask yourself first.
I think, again, hopefully not a majority, but a large number of people would just, I'm done.
It's just horrible.
Isn't it? Isn't it horrible?
So how much
gotta be
integrity do these relationships have that people are conducting on a day-to-day
even
basis?
More, how much is the integrity of the relationship worth?
Uh-huh.
If you won enough money that was literally, as they say, fuck off money, where you could just quit your job and live for the rest of your life on that money, would you leave the relationship you're in? I wouldn't.
I would not.
I would not.
We would do rich so well.
We'd have so much fun being
We would
rich.
have so much fun. We
So
would
much
do it
fun.
so well. We'd be generous.
Arcsign says, I'd give up 3/4 and keep 1/4. Yeah, but Arcsign, she gets half regardless. The law is going to say that she gets half this money. It's not a matter of giving up 3/4 and her getting 1/4. She gets half.
And so what are damages? What does that mean? I want $1 million.
For pain and suffering. Damages for being an asshole. That's what it is.
Okay.
You're a jerk, so there's got to be a price to be paid for you being a jerk.
Okay.
That she had to go through the stress of all this stuff, and she has to hire a lawyer, and she has to pay for the lawyer, and those are the, and a lawyer in the States would take 1/3 of her winnings.
Yeah.
Whatever the court awarded her. So that's what she's doing. And I have no problem with that.
Oh, no.
You were a jerk.
Just awful.
You could have easily
Sleazeball.
simply said to her, I won the lottery.
Yeah.
I don't want to live with you anymore.
Yeah.
Here's $3 million.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
I'm out of here.
And
Fine.
she would have been upset.
She would have
but
gone,
okay.
Exactly.
That's $3 million.
Exactly.
But you had to be an asshole and try to sneak away with the money. That's the thing that kills me.
Yeah.
Dude, did you sneak away to at least Tahiti, or did you stay in Chatham, Ontario?
Yeah.
Did you just quit your job and move to a hotel? If you're gonna go to Brazil, go someplace.
Yeah. You didn't tell me where he was.
The story doesn't say, but it does say he took his passport. But interestingly enough, so she must have found out very quickly afterward, because it says she filed a court injunction to stop the payout of the money. After investigation by the Ontario Lottery Commission, they paid half to Tebow and released a photo of him holding up a check for $3.07 million, but held on to the other half pending some resolution between them.
Oh.
So she knew right away. She went to the Lottery Commission and went, no, don't give him the money. And they said, well, we have to give him at least half. So they gave him half the money. But it's just his lawyer is saying this is about his reputation just cracked me up, because I'm sorry. His reputation's in the shitter.
Oh, they'll try anything.
Yours is a
lawyers.
complete asshole. And I hope his name gets spread far and wide across Canada.
Yeah.
So other women can go, yeah, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm not dating this guy, because he could do the same thing again. He could do it to me.
Yeah.
Arcsine, in the U.S., someone tried that and run away with the entire lottery winnings. Judge gave the spouse the entire prize. The jerk got nothing. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Love it.
I have no
Love
problem
it.
with that. That's yeah, exactly. If you're in that situation, I get that you want to get out of that situation. You're in an unhappy relationship. I have no problem with that. But you've got obligations. One of your obligations is to give her half the money, dummy.
Yeah.
Monty, if he's good looking, his reputation doesn't mean much. Money buys a lot of companionship.
Well, I was just wondering if...
But it doesn't buy trust.
No. But if she looked a certain way, I bet you he wouldn't have grabbed his passport and packed his bags and run off. That's the awful thing.
Possibly, but people have left Angelina Jolie. People have left Jennifer Aniston. It's the same guy, but...
Did you mean that then? Or
I didn't really mean to do it that way. But you know, what's the old joke? Just because she's beautiful doesn't mean there's not some out there tired of putting up with her shit.
No, it's true. It's true.
And the reverse is true, too.
Yes.
Just because he's handsome doesn't mean there's not someone out there tired of putting up with her shit. But yeah, I got to believe that you're right. Looks would enter into it. But I think the relationship is more important. If the person's beautiful or handsome, but they're a jerk for that kind of money, I think you'd still leave. Because you can find handsome again with $3 million.
Especially if you're rich.
Exactly. With $3 million, I can.
You can make yourself look a lot handsomer too.
There's that too. That's a funny story. Chatham, Ontario. I'm dying to find the resolution of that one. What else? I think it was it. Oh, I get your picture all wrong up here. I guess I can move that over there. Later on in the show, in our starting point photography segment, we're going to talk about more iPhoneography tips. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. This is Your Mac Life. I am Shawn King. Joined on our phone now by our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Shawn. How are you?
I'm good. You had as we all knew, those of us who listen to the show over the years, knew you had a HomePod last week, but I also know that you're not allowed to talk about it, so that's why I didn't ask you about it. But this week, you finally can talk about the HomePod that Apple has gave you for review. First of all, let's talk about the tour that Apple gave you and a bunch of other journalists of their audio lab. How cool was that?
You know, I've talked about this so much, I don't want to talk about it.
Let's move on then, shall we? Yes.
The tour was one of the most amazing things that I've ever done at Apple.
Yeah.
It really is, because it's audio, and that's a big love of mine. But what it really did for me was to solidify the lengths to which Apple will go to make sure a product is the best. Now,
Yes.
after I wrote that story, I heard from people in the audio industry, to which I know many, and they said, we are a specific, and they are high-end audio company.
Yep.
We don't have chambers like that. Now, the chamber that, the analog chamber that Apple has is one of the largest in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is huge for a chamber.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Did they give you much detail about what the chamber was, or was it just a fact sheet they handed out, or did you actually look inside of it? Did you stand inside of it and talk for a while, or?
Oh yeah, we were inside of it. There was no fact sheet. It was the guy who runs the chamber telling us about it. You know, so I mean, this was a very detailed type of tour where he would say, okay, in here, you know, they built the chamber in a room inside a room, suspended on gigantic springs, so that no vibration from the outside, even a truck going by, nothing could interfere or send false signals inside of this room.
Yeah.
And that was just one. We saw 4 chambers. So, and they would explain at every step, you know, this is what we use this chamber for. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this one was specific to Siri because and they would play, you know, like, noise, lots of people together at a party, and then see how Siri reacted. And that's why Siri can hear you when, you know, other assistants may not be able to, because they're doing all of this work. So there's 4 separate chambers. One was complete silence. That's the one that I wrote about. It's built on 28 tons of concrete and has 27 tons of material in the wall, so that there is absolute, complete silence in this room.
-2 decibels.
Yes.
Which is just bizarre just to think about. How did it feel in there? I mean, because one of the things that I've been reading about anechoic chambers is that there's a really weird, creepy kind of coffin-like claustrophobia. Did you feel that?
They actually closed the door for about 10 seconds. And then he said, okay, I'm done. Because it's like your heartbeat is louder than anything else in that room.
Exactly.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Yeah. Your heartbeat is louder than anything else because there is no sound, none in this room. And it's really weird for the first time to be in a place where, I mean, they said a recording studio, which is not meant to be completely silent, but a recording studio is set at about minus or at about 20 dB. Human hearing threshold is at about 0 dB. This room is at -2. So it's just absolutely insane. Yeah. When they're looking for electronic noise, and I thought this was very interesting, and I never really thought about it until he brought it up, was what if you have HomePod sitting on your nightstand, and at night it's dark, it's you know, everything is quiet, and then there's this tiny little hum coming from HomePod. That would drive you nuts.
Absolutely. I've gotten little clock radios that do that.
Yeah. So that's why they have this one specific room to make sure that there is no electronic noise, and they measure it. They've got microphones everywhere. Well, you saw the picture. Yeah. There are microphones everywhere measuring to see if there's any kind of electronic noise or hum just from having it plugged in, not from playing it. Yep. Just from having it plugged in.
Yep, a background hum. The other thing I read about it in your piece that I thought was fascinating is you wrote, even the fabric mesh that covers HomePod was designed by the acoustic team in collaboration with other Apple teams to make sure it was acoustically transparent. Yep. I don't think I've ever heard that line before certainly not in a speaker at this consumer level. Acoustically, that's how much Apple cares about this stuff, that the freaking speaker mesh is, quote-unquote, acoustically transparent. Do they explain what that actually means?
The mesh itself does not interfere in any way with the sound waves going out to the ear.
But I think I get the impression that it wouldn't anyway to any noticeable level for the average human ear, and yet Apple is still going to do that thing the right way.
Yeah. I mean, they had the design team, they had the acoustics team. So the design team can't do something that, excuse me, that's going to block the music, and the acoustics team can't do something that's completely transparent and doesn't meet Apple's design standards.
Yeah.
So, they had to come somewhere in between and make this thing work. And, typical of Apple, this is the process that they went through to get it done.
Well, I'm glad go ahead.
I was so impressed. I was so impressed when I left there.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that this anechoic chamber was built 6 years ago when they started working on HomePod.
Now, that brings up something that I don't think anyone else has realized. If HomePod, they started developing HomePod 6 years ago. They showed it off last July, so 2017. 6 years ago was 2011. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the last project Steve Jobs worked on.
Could be.
It was pointed out to me by the story I wrote on The Loop, talking about smart speaker, and we'll talk about that a little later, from Aaron Miller. And he was the first person to make that connection, that if this was 6 years ago, and we keep doing 6 years from 2018, but the HomePod was announced in 2017, 6 years ago, I got to believe that this is part of Steve Jobs' legacy, that this is one of the last products, we think anyway, that he would have at least given approval of, if not actually worked on. They've been working on this for that long. We think Apple started this thing up a year ago and announced it in July at WWDC. That's not the way Apple works. Apple's already working on, 5 years ago, they started working on the thing we'll see next year kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to keep that in mind when we talk about this kind of stuff. So with that in mind, let's talk about the actual HomePod speaker itself. One of the things that I heard in your review and some of the other ones was people seem to be surprised by how dense this thing is, how both it's smaller but bigger than what they expect it to be. Talk to us about the actual physicalness of the HomePod, how it feels physically.
Well, it's heavy.
Yeah.
It is heavy, and a lot of that is the woofer, I would say, because when I walked into this room, they said, here's a HomePod completely taken apart. Here are all the parts. And we designed and built all of these parts, to make HomePod special.
That's pretty incredible.
So they said, lift up the woofer. Lifted it up, and at first you can't lift it up because it's a lot heavier than what it looks. When you reach over and just grab something and all of a sudden it weighs 10 pounds.
That's right.
And you can't pick. Well, the woofer, you expect just to be able to lift it up, and you couldn't. I mean, obviously you could, but it was a lot heavier than what it looked. And when you pick up a HomePod, it's heftier weight-wise than what you would think. Yeah. So, and a lot of that is the woofer. And now, here's the attention to detail that Apple went, and you can hear it. So this is part Audiolab, part HomePod. The woofer is suspended in the casing.
Yes.
So that when you play music, the woofer itself doesn't shake the HomePod and cause any kind of vibrations. Now, we all know from playing music, whatever type of music you like, that if you crank the music up, sometimes your speakers will rattle. Well, the suspension helps that. But the other thing that helps that is the AA chip, because the AA chip is looking ahead, milliseconds ahead in the music, and tuning the low frequencies so that the woofer will be able to handle it. So even at 100% volume, There is no rattle, no vibration, no distortion, no nothing. So a Twitter user, a Twitter follower of mine, last night said, play Hot for Teacher at 100%. And if everybody, I presume, knows Hot for Teacher. Yeah. Big drum opening and smashing cymbals. Yep. And I thought, oh, great, thanks. And I said, well, I was at a bar, so I said, well, remind me tomorrow, and I'll do it. So sure enough, he did. He reminded me. So I said to Siri, play Hot for Teacher and volume at 100%. And Siri came back and said, that's pretty loud. Are you sure? And I said, yes.
Yes. And don't ask me again.
So not a single bit of rumble, vibration, or distortion.
No.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. Did you find out from Apple, why is the woofer on the top of the HomePod? Woofers are generally at the bottom. I don't know if there's an acoustic reason for that or if it's just weight. But is there a reason the woofer's at the top?
Those decisions were all acoustic.
Yeah.
All acoustic. They said it was better.
Interesting.
Yep. I mean, what better answer do you need?
Yeah,
it's better.
Exactly. It's better.
Better sound.
Yeah.
I mean, the HomePod shape is what it is. They could have put it in the bottom. They could have put it in the middle. I mean, but they put it at the top because they said it was better.
There's no doubt that every single review of the HomePod remarks on the music quality of this, that it sounds amazing for a speaker its size, whether it's in comparison to its so-called competitors or not. You're an audio guy. You have put this through its paces of a kind of music that Apple certainly didn't play. How does your metal sound on it?
Incredible.
Yeah.
So there's a song. I like to look for songs that are going to test whatever it is I'm doing.
Sure.
Guitar songs. So there's a few songs that I played through my testing to specifically try and throw HomePod for a loop that it couldn't come back from.
Yep.
So since HomePod is, part of what they were bragging about was the woofer, and the woofer is all about bass.
Yes.
The woofer pushes air, and that's kind of what you feel when you're doing that. So I played Another One Bites the Dust by Queen because that's very strong bass. That's a good, hard, bassy song. So I played that. Another one that I played it's a song called Dawn Patrol from Megadeth.
Yep.
And Dawn Patrol is all bass and a vocal. That's all it is.
Yeah.
There is no other instruments in that song. Bass and vocal.
Yeah.
So I played that. And neither one of those songs could rattle HomePod at all. Mm-hmm. Now, so I went the exact opposite way, and I played one of my favorite songs is Demons by Jasmine Thompson, and it's a cover of Imagine Dragons' song Demons, but she does it with just her and a piano.
Okay. And
it's so beautiful, but there's a lot of highs and a lot of mids in that song that there's no bass in that song at all, really, but you can hear her breathing in between the lyrics. And there's a lot that HomePod can really, really fuck up if it isn't bang on. I mean, if all it's looking for is bass, then this song would have gotten it, and it didn't. It sounded beautiful. So I tried everything I could to screw it up.
So that's what it sounded like with your metal. What did it sound like with good music?
Ooh.
Ooh. Monty says, what type of music did Apple use at the demo Jim was at?
Let me see. That's a good question. I didn't recognize any of it, to be honest.
So it was all Dr. Dre and
It was no.
Justin
There was
Timberlake and
they did play an Ed Sheeran song. I think they played a Hamilton song,
yeah.
and then a couple of poppy type songs from that I wouldn't know.
Yeah, no,
but as a music guy, I wasn't listening to the song. What the fuck is spinning?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was me. I got my fidget spinner while you're talking. I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ!
I didn't realize you could hear that.
God Almighty! So those are the types of things that they were playing, but they all had a purpose. All the songs had a purpose.
Yeah, sure.
If you go, the HomePod is no different than any other speaker.
Sure.
If you play good quality produced albums like the Eagles Live, Hotel California, that is a spectacularly produced album. You are going to get spectacular sound. If you play some piece of crap out of it, then it's not going to sound as good.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. But so we listened to that as well, Hotel California. I mean, that is a beautiful song to listen on any stereo with.
The Arksign's got an interesting question in the IRC chat room, and I haven't thought about it this way. He says, ask Jim if perhaps the HomePod plus Apple Music will do for multiple listeners what the iPod did for individual listeners. The iPod made listening to music awesome for one person. Can the HomePod do that for groups?
How in what way make it awesome?
Well, I don't know if do people, and this may be showing my age, but I do remember being younger and sitting around listening to albums with friends. Would people sit around the HomePod and listen to albums with friends? Would you have a listening party with you and a bunch of friends listening to the latest CD, or would the HomePod be more of a party speaker in the background, or is the HomePod a personal speaker?
Well, I'll give you an answer while Arcsign types in a clarification
exactly
to what he means about being awesome. But
yes.
Here's if you have people over to the house, anybody can go in and say, Siri, play Hotel California Live.
Yeah.
And it'll play that song. And then when that song is over, somebody else can say, oh, play, Dr. Dre. And somebody else can say what, or you can do it from your phone. You can add songs from your phone. So that's kind of cool as well. So yeah, it can be a party device, or you can just, and it can be a party device, by the way, with any music service, not just Apple Music.
Sure.
But by using Siri, it uses Apple Music. So, I think it would be a great thing. Being without any walls around it, HomePod just plays like 360 music all the way around. I mean, it's just blasting tunes like I'm wide open.
How portable is it? Is this something you could easily move from room to room? There's no handle on it. It's heavy. Does Apple expect people to buy multiple versions of this? The Zip speaker I've got from Libertone has a handle on it, so it's very portable. It's also got a battery, so it's really easy to move around with me. Obviously, the HomePod doesn't have a battery, but is it portable?
A handle would look like crap.
It would look stupid. I agree.
So there's no handle, but could you move it if you wanted to? Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's fairly easy.
That's no big deal.
Yeah.
It's easy. You just unplug it and take it to the room, and it's got a long cable, by the way, which is very nice. But yeah, just unplug it and take it to where you want it, and plug it back in. Now, anytime HomePod is moved, it repolls where it is.
Even if it moved an inch, you said.
Yes, even an inch. There's an accelerometer inside that detects when it's been moved. So the next time you play a song, it pulls the room in like seconds and then starts playing the music. So there is no bad spot to put it. It just detects where it is and goes.
Apple says that this is one of the. I'm sure you read some of the other reviews about this. Are the other reviews too heavily focused on Siri and the virtual assistant aspect of it and the lack thereof when it comes to the comparisons to Amazon Echo and Google Home? Or do you think those criticisms are fair by other reviewers?
Well, look, I will say from my standpoint, and I said this in the previous weeks when we've talked about HomePod, that HomePod to me is a music speaker.
Yes.
So I get the impression that either the other reviewers didn't understand what this was, didn't care what it was, or just chose to ignore what it was.
Yes.
That's the impression I got. It's kind of got to be one of those things, because I was thrilled, honestly, that I could add items to my groceries list. I know that sounds stupid, but I was thrilled. You know, I could just walk in and say it, and it would add, and I was all giddy because I could do that. But first and foremost, and I said this in the review, this is a music speaker.
No.
So, you know, the fact that I can do these other things is cool, but I am not going to buy HomePod because I can tell it to add things to my groceries list.
No.
I'm going to buy it because it's a superior speaker, first and foremost. And I can play music, and it's going to be loud, and it's going to be clear, and I'm going to love it. So when other people say, well, you can't initiate a phone call on it. No, that's because it's not a fucking phone. You know, I could care less if I can initiate a phone call from it. It can add things to, you know, Google shopping, Google Express.
Yep.
Well, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Am I willing to accept Google Express or a really good music speaker?
No.
Well, I want the music speaker. This is a speaker. Now, it is a smart speaker, and yes, it is smart. You can ask Siri all kinds of questions, and she'll answer, and answer better than my phone does.
Which
so
is weird.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But I set timers on it when I'm cooking. I do all kinds of different things. And it's not that big of a deal for me. If all Siri did for me was be able to play music, I'd still be happy. I wouldn't be as happy because, honestly, I do like the access to all of these other things that I can do, like reminders and notes and, you know, and the reason that works so well is because it all syncs across iCloud. Sure. So when I add something to my groceries list, it's on my Mac, my iPad, my iPhone. You know, it's everywhere. Yeah. And I appreciate that. I've always loved having things synced like that. So that is very good. I love that. That's not what would make me buy it, though. Yeah. But
I think what happens is you just decide what's more important to you. You got to accept that you can't have everything. So if you want good sound and good music, then you buy the HomePod if you can afford it. If you want a virtual assistant or an intelligent assistant, then you buy one of the other devices. I don't think it's that much rocket science. I don't know if you read my piece on The Loop about what makes a speaker smart, but do you get the sense that maybe Apple has done a marketing misstep here, that by calling it a smart speaker, as Aaron Miller wrote in that piece that I linked to, as you said, Apple started this project 6 years ago when a smart speaker meant something completely different. Now with Amazon and Google, smart means something else. I think people are missing the point. This is a smart speaker from the point of view of the things it does with sound is very smart.
Well,
and people are getting caught up in this word smart and hoping it's a virtual assistant. And I think Apple's missed the marketing on this. If they called this a super speaker, we wouldn't be comparing it to the Google Home or the Amazon Echo.
No, that's not true. We would. Well, everybody would, because the only thing that people know as a speaker with voice is Amazon and Google.
Yeah.
So there's that, and that's why I called that section, excuse me, the inevitable comparison.
Yeah.
Because people are going to compare it. There is no way around that. Now, if you look and say, "Whoa, I can get this thing for $50 or this one for $150. Why would I spend $350?" Well, then you don't care about music. But study after study has shown that what people most often do with them is play music.
Yeah.
So if you care about the quality of music and that's what you're going to do most often, and you want it to sound like a tin box, then get the Amazon Echo. Because it mimics the sound of a tin box perfectly.
How much of this is, I think a lot of this is the fact that the people who are reviewing this, as we often say, are techies and geeks and nerds, and they have different expectations from other people. As have seen in several instances, Apple says, and Amazon knows this as well, that after the initial novelty wears off, what people use their smart speakers for is listening to music and checking the weather.
Yeah.
80% of the people use it for music, and then the rest of it's checking weather. Well, if that's the case, in 3 months' time, would you rather be listening to that music on a tinny Echo or on a HomePod? So I think Apple's going in the right direction here. I think over time, people will realize that, if what I want is good sound, then I'll get the HomePod. I think initially, though, Apple's going to have to push through this wall of techie nerds. I would have loved to have seen Apple do some reviews with people who weren't audiophiles or who weren't nerds, who had expectations of this thing. Give it to just some guy walking down the street and say, "Hey, dude, write this up." Because I've been talking to normal people about this, and the vast majority of the normal people I talk to who have heard about it are really excited about the HomePod. And I said, "Well, why?"
Right.
And because it sounds good. They don't mention Siri. They don't mention virtual assistant. They don't mention all that kind of stuff because they can get that stuff on their iPhone. They don't need it on their HomePod as well. So I think this is going to be a very, very big hit for Apple.
I think so, too. Do you think it'll outsell the others?
No, just because of the price point. Because the Amazon Echo is $99, the Dot's $50. Sonos is selling 2 devices for the price for one HomePod. No, I don't think it's going to sell out. But I don't think Apple cares either. I don't think Apple's ever been in that market where they want to sell the most of one thing. They want to get the high end, those affluent buyers or those more particular buyers who appreciate the effort Apple has gone into these. I don't think Apple cares about people who want an Amazon Echo for $99.
Yeah, well, and they shouldn't.
Yes,
and
exactly.
they should never come out with, because this is coming. People are going to want a HomePod Mini.
Yes,
where
absolutely.
Where it doesn't have the same sound quality. No.
Not going to happen.
This is a music speaker.
Yes.
This is what you need to do with this speaker, is to play music. Now, I didn't show anybody this speaker until tonight.
Yeah.
And my neighbor came over and he was talking about HomePod. He said, we're just sitting outside chatting, and he said, I saw the HomePod goes on sale on the 9th. I'm thinking about one, because he said a couple of Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that. And he uses it in his garage. He works on he's got a 67 Chevelle.
Nice.
And fully restored. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, but it's got like 454 in it, so this thing will move.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh my God. He starts it up and my house rumbles.
Yeah, that's right.
So he said, I was thinking about getting one for the garage, but I'm not sure yet. And I said, well, I got one inside. Come take a listen.
Yeah.
So we went in, and he's a country music fan, so he likes Chris Stapleton and
Oh, Jesus!
you
You're still friends with him?
This kind of stuff. So I turned off have HomePod affect my for you.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I turned that off and said, okay, what do you want to listen to? And he said, well, let's put on some Chris Stapleton. So I put it on, and he said, oh my God, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I walked him to the same place that I did my test. I walked him, put the volume on 80%, walked him about 25 feet away from HomePod. And I mean, we couldn't talk in normal volume. And I said, watch this. And I lowered my voice and said, Siri. And the music dimmed, and she waited. And he said, that is amazing. Now, he's an iPhone user and all that, so yep. he still has some problems with Siri, as we all do. Yep. But he said, that's amazing. I really like that. Now, he said, can I talk on the phone? And I said, okay, you can, but you have to transfer the call. When you get a phone call, you just push the button and say, go to HomePod. Yeah. And he said, that's fine. I would rather be able to control that because I don't want to answer my phone and have it go to my Bluetooth speaker all the time, yeah. which is what happens. And he has a good point. You know, you don't want that. So he controls. So by the time he left, he said, okay, I'm going to buy one. Yeah. So I don't know if I get a commission on that or what.
No, I've asked. Bastards. No. They never give us that stuff. Yeah, I get why techies and geeks and nerds want to focus on that part over there, but I think that part over there isn't what Apple's focused on. I don't think it's what ordinary consumers care about to the degree that the technology guys do. I think this is where Apple is. They'll fight through this. It's going to be interesting to see what the marketing is. Interesting to see. We've seen a few ads they've had on the Grammys and things like that. So that's going to be, to me, really fascinating to see how Apple gets past this point where people either ignore or aren't paying attention to or don't read the idiots like Brian Chin or Nilay Patel or the other technology writers. I think it's one of the reasons, and this is not just kissing your ass. One of the reasons why people like your reviews so much is your reviews aren't techie. They're about the average guy, or above average guy, as the case may be, listening to the music he listens to in the way he wants to listen to it, without all of this other stuff going on. You know what I mean? It's your review is probably the closest Apple's going to get to handing that guy in the street a HomePod.
Well, and that's I think a good thing, because that's what I try and do with all the reviews. But you know, if I think deep down, we all care about the sound of the music. Now, if I was in a room with a Sonos, what is it, a Play One?
Well,
a Sonos
One?
Sonos
or One player or Play One, yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's stupid that I don't know the name because I have 3 of them. So
that's how important they are to you.
So I was in a room with that, with the Google Max, with Alexa, with the Echo, and with a HomePod. Now, all of these were tuned, and my house is tuned for Sonos.
Yep.
I have a Sonos Play Bar, 3 Sonos Play Ones, and a woofer, Sonos woofer, and it's tuned. Now, Sonos does come the closest to HomePod, but there's a hell of a lot of difference in the equipment that's needed to get Sonos to sound that way, and what Apple does. Now, Sonos still couldn't beat the sound of HomePod. So Google Max sounded like, when you switched to Google Max, it was like all of a sudden the music got sucked into a box and was blasting straight out at you. Yeah. So the great thing about HomePod is that there is no sweet spot in the room. There is no place where the sounds better than any other place in the room. No. It just sounds great. With the Google Max, it sounded like it was being blasted straight out the front, which it was. That, in fairness, it was. It was just being blasted out the front. Yeah. And the Google Max costs more than the HomePod. So the other one was the Echo. It literally sounded like a tin box.
Yeah. Yep.
It was awful.
Yep.
Absolutely awful.
That, yep.
So, I think Apple is positioning this in the right way.
Yeah. I think they're going to have some interesting issues when it comes to demoing it, though. We've talked about this before, demoing that in the store with the noise level of the store. But actually, maybe even demoing it in the store will be better, because the first thing you'll be able to do is show the Hey Siri feature of it, where the music will be playing loud. There'll be a loud store, but with a normal voice, you'll be able to do Hey Siri. It's going to be. I'm dying to go to an Apple store to see how Apple is going to demo this.
Well, you know what I would do? I would just walk by the outside of the store and say Siri and get them all going at the same time.
That's right, exactly.
Play Another One Bites the Dust.
I got a last story here. Wanted to get your opinion on. Amazon Canada has released its latest most romantic cities in Canada list, and number 20, Dartmouth.
Oh my God.
The 20th most romantic city in Canada, Dartmouth.
Okay. So for people that don't know, the reason that we laughed is because that is the place where the prison is. It's the place where the crazy house is.
Yes.
And it's a place where the majority of the crime is.
And also where I grew up. It explains a lot, doesn't it?
So there's that. Yeah. I can say they must have just ran out of cities and...
No. What city would you think would be on this list?
Oh, God. Banff?
No, it's on the list. Montreal, not in the list. Toronto, not in the list. Vancouver, not in the list. Abbotsford, Fort McMurray, Surrey, Nanaimo, Waterloo, North Bay, Ontario.
Who wrote this list?
Amazon Canada.
Okay, well, they've never been to any
of those places. Yeah,
God.
I read that story and thought, I got to talk to Jim about this because this is hilarious. It's Dartmouth romantic.
I want to find that writer and take them to the Dartmouth that I know.
Exactly, it's right. Let's go over to Shannon Park, dude.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
That's where I grew up. Let me take you romantic. Let me take you there.
You grew up in Shannon Park?
I did.
I'm surprised you made it out alive.
Well, I'm a big guy, so I fought my way out, but I made my way out of Shannon Park. Yeah.
There was
a funny story.
There was a place in Shannon Park, right on the as you enter Shannon Park, where you could buy Donairs, and I think it was called Mike's.
Could be, yeah.
It was right at the corner before you cross the railroad tracks going in. It was that little strip mall.
Yep.
I'm sure your listeners are enjoying this, but in Nova Scotia, we will go to great lengths to get a good donair.
Hell yes.
So Mike's made the biggest and best donair in the entire metropolitan area. But you didn't go there at night.
That's right.
Unless there was a whole carload full of you. Because if you went by yourself, you would not come back. That was Shannon Park.
Oh God, yes. That's
so
we
used to go over in like a Volkswagen Rabbit, and it could fit maybe 3 comfortably. We'd have like 8 guys in there going
to get a donair.
Because we had to get a donair. And, inevitably the question would come up, well, where do you want to go get a donair?
Yeah.
Well, we could go to Greco.
Yeah.
We could go, here. We could go, well, let's just go to Mike's.
That's right.
We all knew that's where we were going to go. We were going to go to Mike's. So
and there's enough of us to be safe. So, yeah, we can go to Mike's.
We can go to Mike's. There's enough of us to be safe. Or enough that at least half of us will get out alive.
Yes, exactly.
And sure enough, we'd show up and, you know.
Well, I'm going to get you off the air, and then I'm going to explain to Monty what a Halifax Donair is. Oh my God, they're so good. I so miss lobster, and Halifax Donair is the thing I miss most about the food in Nova Scotia.
I want a Donair,
and I know you don't like lobster, so there we go.
No,
folks, been talking to our good friend Jim Dalrymple the Loop at loopinsight.com. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk later, buddy. See ya.
Bye.
Now, a lot of you folks might know that that particular food as a gyro. And, you know, it's the spiced meat kind of thing. But a Halifax, and there are donairs that you can buy here in Vancouver, and I've seen them in New York. It's a street food. Not always sold on the street, but it's a food that is that kind of stuff. So it's a spiced meat, usually lamb, ground beef, ground pork, and it's on a great big huge rotating spit. I'll show you a picture of this thing. See if this picture comes. Picture's not very good. This rotating spit that the donair comes on. So the guy will go up there and he will hack off chunks of meat off of this. This is all ground meat. And he will put it in a pita bread with secret spices in the donair sauce. It's cucumber. It's like a tzatziki sauce, but it's different. This is suggests spices might be pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, paprika, cayenne, oregano. Oh my God. It is so disgustingly good. It is literally, and remember, this is Nova Scotia, where lobsters are god. The donair is Halifax's official food. I have had so many donairs drunk off my ass and just sat there literally on the curb eating donair while the juicy bits come squirting out on your end. You don't care because it's the best food ever. But unlike other drunk foods, donairs are good when you're sober. See, most drunk food doesn't taste good sober. Like Denny's. After midnight, I love Denny's. After midnight and drunk, love Denny's. I've gone to Denny's sober once and went, this is shit. This is awful. What the hell was I thinking? But yeah, Denny's and a Halifax donair is so good. You have no idea how good it is. What's Australian drunk food?
Australian drunk food. Australian drunk food.
Is there that food that you know, after the bars close, you stagger over to a food cart or an all-night store to get in Australia?
It'd be a hamburger or, you know, chips except in newspaper, and you make a hole in the top, you know, and you eat your chips out of there.
But not, yeah, Monty says Taco Bell. Monty, Waffle House, Denny's. No. Those are common.
No, and Waffle House, I can't eat sweet stuff when I was. It's got to be greasy. Yeah.
French fries is okay, but yeah, Halifax definitely. The donair was, but it was a good food at lunchtime.
Yeah, donair. What are those other ones?
Gyros.
No, the East Indian ones. It's like a spicy couscousy thing. What is it?
Don't know.
Oh, yes, you do. Never mind. I'll think of it later.
All right.
No, not shawarma, whatever that is.
Shawarma is a whole meal. It's rice and meat and that kind of stuff. Shawarma's good. I love shawarma.
Yeah. Can't think of the name of it.
In our starting point for Dogview segment, we're going to talk about... Oops, hang on, I hit the wrong button. I had someone ask me about some iPhoneography tips of shooting. And I know we've done this a couple times before. We're going to do it another segment on tonight's show. Because one of the things that I read somewhere that you should hold your iPhone, you're taking a picture with your iPhone, the first thing the person said was hold it as if it's a DSLR. Well, that's stupid.
That looks really stupid. I'm going to walk away from you if you do that out in public.
Doing that. But even holding it out here, that's not how you hold a DSLR. But a point and shoot with a screen in the back, that's how you would hold it. And I try to get people to not hold their iPhone like this, because the further your elbows and your wrists and your hands get away from your body, the more chance you're going to introduce vibration. And vibration of the camera is blur. That's how it's going to show up on your shot. So you don't want your extremities to be moving and vibrating. And even if you think you're standing still, your heartbeat can move things, your body moves. So what you want to do is you want to keep your elbows in as close as you can. This is true of your DSLR. Hold the camera up as close as you can. But with your iPhone, because you're looking at the back of the screen, keep your elbows tucked in and keep the camera as close as you can to yourself to minimize vibration. What I tend to do, and because the other part of the problem is when you're holding it like this, you often see people take their hand off the camera and then push the button, the virtual button that's on the camera. The problem is when you do that, you can see it moves the camera. So if the thing you're shooting is perfectly still and isn't going to move, that's okay. But if you're shooting people and they're going to smile or move, or animals, or it's a windy day, things are going to move, this will cause blur. So the way I tend to personally shoot is I'll still hold my camera in one hand, and maybe because I've got a bigger hand. Can you do this? Can you hold your camera?
No, I use the timer. I always use the timer.
No. Can you hold your camera?
I've never tried.
Where's your camera?
Where's my camera?
Where's your iPhone?
Out in the living room.
Go get your iPhone!
Are you kidding me? You want me to go get it?
No, stop. Stay there. Can you hold this the way I was showing? Like that?
Like that?
Here, give it. Never mind. Just useless assistant. So what I'm doing is I've got two fingers. My thumb and my little finger are supporting.
No, I couldn't do that.
And then my other three fingers are on the top. But I'm also going to hold it with this hand as well, too. And by holding it with this hand as well, my thumb is near the button. Hang on, let me just turn the camera and I'll show you. So by holding it like this, you can see that there is the virtual button. So my thumb is right there. So I'm still holding the camera very steadily, but I don't have to take this hand off in order to poke at that button. And as long as you have to keep an eye out of where your camera lens is. I've often will get my finger in the way, so I have to make sure I move my hand down towards the right side of the camera. But now I can hold it pretty steadily and tap on the photo button to get photos. So try that technique. 2 fingers underneath, 3 fingers on top, and then 3 fingers on top. Or my hand's a little bit bigger, so maybe if it's more comfortable for you to have 1 finger on the side, but basically you're holding it in that kind of a grip, and see if that works for you. Because now when you hold the camera like this, you've got your fingers interlocked. It's a steadier position to shoot. Your camera's up at the screen's up at eye level, but you can still very easily, you can see, I can still very easily tap the screen without introducing a lot of motion blur. Does that make sense?
It does. Good. But what's wrong with using the timer?
Nothing.
No, because often I'll just put on the 3-second timer, so then I can get myself all steady and set up.
Well, you talk about selfies.
No. I used to do it a lot. Not always selfies.
I have found on the iPhone X and iOS 11, my timer doesn't work very well.
Oh.
They fixed it in an update. Never mind.
No.
Never mind.
There you go.
The other thing is, remember, your volume buttons also work as shutter buttons. A lot of people forget this. That the volume button. So now I've got the virtual button to take pictures is over here. The lens is on this side down here, so I'm holding it wrong. I have to cross over in order to hit the virtual button. But I can still hold it like this, and the volume button will also take a picture. Either volume up. Oops, stop it. I got it on timer. Either volume up. It's still on timer. Stop being on timer.
My fault.
Stupid thing. So I got to be careful of blocking the lens with this finger, so I can still take a picture with the volume up button or the volume down button. They both take pictures. So you can hold the camera like this, and then one of these 2 fingers can push the button. Another thing that people keep forgetting is that your headphones, any headphone that has a microphone on it or a volume up, volume down button on it, the button will also work as a shutter. It'll also work as a take picture button. So if you're using the Apple EarPods or you're using a third-party Sony set or Etymotic or whatever it might be, that volume button will also, so you can still hold the camera steadily or put it down somewhere and take pictures. You said you use the timer on things, and the timer's fine for something that's not going to move. Or for something that you don't have to do this with. I don't have to catch the scene.
No.
The timer works fine if you wanted to use the timer. Arcsign says, "Ugh, I don't want steady pictures that badly. If I don't need to develop a golf grip for my iPhone."
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's true.
That's
I think
fair.
I get a wrist cramp with that.
You do get used to it very quickly, though. At least for me. This is now a very quick, easy way for me to take pictures with my phone that are fairly steady. So it's just a trick I use. I'm not saying you have to use it that way. The other thing I found very interesting about the iPhone 10 is, iPhone 10, and I gotta bet iOS 11, is every other camera, I've always told people don't use the zoom. Because digital zoom on a camera, point and shoot, iPhone, Android, whatever, always sucks. But the 2x zoom on the iPhone 10, because it's using these different lenses, isn't bad. I was surprised. I took some shots when we were at the zoo in Australia or at the aquarium in Australia where I couldn't physically, because the thing I've always said is zoom with your feet. If you want to get close to something, get as physically close to the thing as you possibly can. But there was one instance where we're taking a picture of a little cute, fat little wombat coming out of its not cage, but out of its area. Obviously, we couldn't get any closer, so I tapped the 2x zoom button on it, and the picture came out pretty good. Even if I do the finger open, pinch open thing, and now I'm at 10x zoom. Even 10x zoom isn't bad on the iPhone 10 with iOS 11. I'm surprised it's usable. It's not great, but it's usable. So keep that in mind too, that if you have the iPhone 10 in particular, the zoom might work out for it. 2x zoom definitely works and works pretty good. But even up to 5x zoom, some of the pictures I took of the peacock, where I couldn't get close enough to the peacock, but 2x zoom wasn't enough, and I pinched into about 5x zoom, pretty good. Good enough for at least for Flickr or for Instagram or that kind of stuff. Another great thing I try to teach new beginning photographers, don't just take one picture and then walk away. Take the picture that you see, but then move around. Wait. There was a great shot I took of one of the peacocks. And I just waited. I took the peacock shot. I wasn't sure where the peacock was going to go or what he was going to do. I took a peacock shot. And then he started to do this little vibration thing. And he was showing off for a peahen. I didn't know they were called that. Peacock?
Peahen. That's right.
Makes perfect sense. He was showing off for a peahen. He started to vibrate and shake and show off. And he turned.
That's what Shawn does. Keep going. And he turned. He was vibrating, and then
and he turned. He had, all his feathers were complete. He was in full plumage.
He was.
And he turned his back to me, and I had never seen the ass end of a peacock before.
Yeah.
But the design on the back was pretty
It's very cool.
And so I got another shot of the ass end of a peacock. So don't just take a picture and walk away. Especially of things that are interesting. Look around that thing. Move in different directions. Shoot higher. Shoot lower. You've got a whole bunch of different options for shooting with the iPhone. So shoot the same things different ways. One of the things I do, I always tell folks, photographers, one of these beginning photographers do, you can always spot it from a beginning photographer, is especially for places like the beach, where your horizon is very obvious. There's a straight line where you can see the horizon. And you'll see beginners, they'll put that straight line dead center in their photo.
Yeah, looks awful.
It looks awful.
It does.
So don't do that. But what you can do, the idea is to raise your photo, raise your shot up so you get a little more sky or a little more ground. But why not do both? Get a shot of a little more sky, a little more ground. Take both pictures. No harm in taking two of them and seeing which one comes out better. Because sometimes more sky looks better. Sometimes more ground looks better. Especially depending on what's in the sky. For me, if it's a completely perfectly blue, clear sky, it's kind of boring.
It's not that interesting.
So I'll take the shot with more ground in it. If the sky's got some really neat kind of fluffy clouds, then I'll take a shot with more sky in it. But if, as we get here in Vancouver on a regular basis, the sky is flat, rainy, dreary, I won't bother shooting the sky. I'll shoot more ground. So keep that in mind too when you're shooting that vertical, that horizontal line of your horizon. You want it a little bit higher or a little bit lower. So to get a shot with more ground in it or a shot with more sky in it. Set the resolution on your iPhone as high as it can be.
I don't even know how to do that.
You don't know how to do that. It's if you had.
I
your
don't
phone,
even know I could zoom.
If you had,
other than with my fingers.
If you had your phone with you, you would know. You could go into the camera settings, HDR, auto HDR.
Oh yes, yes.
And formats high efficiency.
Oh.
And turn off keep normal photo. Because if you're shooting HDR, you don't need to keep the normal photo. Get rid of the normal photo.
Oh.
Because if you've got a good camera with a good lens, you might as well get all the data you can from that camera and that lens. Don't worry about saving space on your camera, whether it be an iPhone or whether it be DSLR. If you find yourself running out of space, delete some photos or get another SD card for your camera. Get multiple SD cards. But always shoot at the highest resolution you can. This is one of those things that I forget all the time. And then I get the photo and I go, why? What? Clean the lens. We're constantly forgetting that we put these things in our pockets and our hands touch them and they just get dirty. Just get yourself a dozen of these things because they're dirt cheap at any drugstore. You can buy them.
Just follow Shawn. He drops his.
I
can get one for free. Monty wants to know
You're a hateful woman.
No, I'm not. I'm a sweetheart. Is high efficiency turn off? No. Is high efficiency turn off RAW and turn on JPEG? Well, I don't know what that means. You have to look at Monty's question.
No, that's a good question, Monty.
It's a good
high
question,
efficiency
Monty.
is not that. High efficiency is that new Apple format. So if you're going to keep your photos in your iPhone and going to post them say, to Instagram and that kind of stuff, then keep the high efficiency stuff on because there's more data, more detail there. But when you go to send those photos, say to a Windows person, you can turn them into JPEGs. You can edit them and save them as JPEGs. Your phone's already capturing them at RAW, the raw data file. But then there's another format that Apple is using called HEIF, HEVC. Don't worry about what that means. It's just much higher quality on those images. So those are a couple more tips for iPhone shooting. Little things, again, to think about. It's the lens thing is one that gets me all the time. All the rest of the stuff I do automatically, but I'm constantly forgetting to clean. I clean the lens of my camera on a regular basis. I do that automatically. I'll just be standing there and I'll just start wiping the lens of my camera and the back screen and the viewfinder.
Yeah.
But I keep forgetting to clean the lens on the back of my iPhone and then wonder why my shots are blurry. Or what's that big dot in there? Oh, it's Strawberry Jam. What the hell is I shooting Strawberry Jam for? So keep that in mind. This has got nothing.
Monty looks at his phone lens. Ew!
Exactly.
I gotta go look at mine now.
You and I was reading the story. This has got nothing to do with Macintosh. So if you're focused on this show and Macintosh stuff, or Apple stuff alone, then you can leave now. You're done. You and I were reading the story, and this was just cracked us up. Parents share the creepiest thing their kids have ever said.
Oh, yeah, that's
Do you
right.
remember do you think of the creepiest thing your child ever said to you?
Nothing like these ones that you shared. No, my kids have said very funny things, but not creepy things like this. Like with Damon, the funniest thing Damon ever said was when I became pregnant with Rory. He was so upset and he went, "You've had sex twice?" He was so upset.
How old was he? Would have been 8.
8. You've had sex twice?
He shouldn't even be asking that question.
Why?
Oh my God.
Just only twice, yes. Once for you and once for this baby. They're nothing creepy. These examples are creepy.
My son at 5 years old. Daddy, I'm going to eat you up. Aw. Yeah, I'm going to cut you in little pieces.
It's just weird. There's weirder ones, though.
My daughter was about 5 years old when she says, "You're the best mommy I've ever had." I said, "I'm the only mommy you've ever had." She looks at me and says, "No, you're the third one, but I like you best." What'd you say to a kid who said that to you?
What? I don't know.
Walking with my 2-year-old in a cemetery by our house. She says, "Mommy, who is that man in the red jacket by the stone house?" She pointed to a mausoleum. There was no one else in the cemetery. "He's waving at me." She waved back. "He's coming over to talk." No! That would freak me.
Oh my God! I would. Yeah. I mean, I'm already in a funny state when I'm in a graveyard, or as it is. Very strange.
I'm okay in graveyards. I have no problem. But if a child
No, I
said
like
that
them.
the man's coming over and there's no one there,
Yeah. I see dead people. That's right.
I was hiking alone in the woods with my son, who was 7 years old. It was eerily quiet. Out of nowhere, he says, "The woods demand a sacrifice." What is wrong with you?
7 years.
7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My 4-year-old said, "We're all going to die." "I know, sweetie. That's just part of, you're going to die tomorrow." The hell?
And 4 is young to say such a thing.
It's just, some of the stuff is just deeply, deeply weird. When my daughter was 2 years old, I found her under the table with one of my husband's old children's books, turning pages as she was being read to. I asked her what she was doing. She said, "Reading with Grandma." Grandma died 2 years before she was born.
Yeah.
It
makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Monty wants the URL to the article. He asks for it.
When my niece was 7, she asked us why we were keeping all the dead grandmas in the attic, and then she laughed. It's the laugh part that would bother me even more.
Yeah.
But I think the graveyard one would have just completely unhinged me.
I know.
He's coming over.
No. I mean, no, I like I'm not scared when I'm in a graveyard, unless that happened. But, you already, you're in a graveyard.
I've never been weirded out or creeped out by graveyards.
Oh, I'm not creeped out. I guess I feel respect. I feel like, I feel respect.
Like I definitely don't walk on.
Oh, never.
Next to the stone.
Oh, no.
I actually like going. I like reading headstones.
Oh, I love wandering around graveyards. And I was just in a graveyard because I went to see my mum. So
yeah, I don't think of them as weird and creepy places or scary places.
Oh, nor I.
Anything. To me, they're peaceful.
They are.
Yeah,
there's an atmosphere. There's just a different atmosphere when you go and see a graveyard.
Yeah, I've never been weirded out by graveyards. This was a story we saw. Women on date accused of ruining $300,000 worth of art.
Oh yes.
Authorities said an intoxicated Dallas woman who was on her first date with a prominent Houston trial lawyer caused $300,000 in damage to his art collection, including 2 Andy Warhol paintings. Lindy Lou Lehman.
Okay. Lindy Lou.
You know she's a Southern girl.
You do.
Only Southern girls are named Lindy Lou. Lindy Lou Lehman, 29 years old, was arrested Saturday on criminal mischief charges after her date with Anthony Busby. She was released on bond. Prosecutors say Busby, 49.
Mm-hmm. Little older.
Yeah, a little bit. Told investigators that Lehman pictured got too intoxicated on their date, so he called her an Uber after they returned to his house.
Yeah.
Busby said Lehman refused to leave and hid inside the home, and that when he found her and called a second Uber, she got aggressive. Authorities said she tore down several paintings and poured red wine on some of them. This is one of those stories where you just know.
Oh, you just know.
We're not getting the whole thing.
You just know. I think he had his way, and then he wanted to sleep. He wanted her to leave.
Or he didn't have his way.
Or he didn't. Yeah. Called her the Uber, and okay. Or he didn't get his way. Okay. Yeah.
See, I'm sorry. First of all, 49 and 29, that's a bit much. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll give you that. Mm-hmm. Maybe he looks young. Mm-hmm. Maybe she looks older. Mm-hmm. Maybe okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. My problem with the whole story was that he said she got too intoxicated on their date, so he called her an Uber after they returned to his house.
Mm-hmm. Why not at the bar?
There you go.
You're a little drunk, honey.
There you
should
go.
Yeah.
You could have called an Uber then, dude.
Yeah.
There was no need. And by the way, after they returned to his house, how'd she get to your house? Mm-hmm. Did you drive?
Couldn't you drive her home?
Did you get a taxi, an Uber?
A cultured girl, she knew which really expensive paintings to ruin.
What's that?
I'm going to get your Andy Warhol.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Her name was Linda Lou Lehman. She didn't have any culture.
It's awful. Don't say that.
She might have been growing some cultures, but she didn't have any.
Oh, that's horrible.
He said she refused to leave and hid inside the home.
Ooh.
See,
no. Anyway, I can think about that one.
Yeah, from his point of view, maybe she's just a whacked out broad who just was a loon. But there's more to this story.
There is more.
There's got to be more.
Somehow they end up back at his. Yeah.
But that's the part that jumped out at me, was that after she was too intoxicated, so after they got back to his house, then he called an Uber.
Yeah.
I call bullshit in that one too.
Sleazy guy.
Dave D, this was in Texas.
This is in Texas, right? Yeah.
Lindy Lou Lehman? Yeah, you know it was Texas, dude. Had to be Texas. Folks, that's it for tonight's show. I want to say thanks, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com for being here. Thanks to you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys being tuned in here each and every Wednesday. As always, also, thanks to my lovely co-host who thinks she looks hideous.
I'm feeling a little better.
How can that fit? Because you had your coffee. You got us some liquid courage in there. How could that face ever be hideous? I mean, that face could never be hideous.
You've only been married 6 years. You're so sweet.
6 years. Next week, Wednesday, is Valentine's Day. If you're doing something special for your Valentine, let us know. Is it a particularly good? Is it your 40th Valentine with this person? It's going to be our first.
Yeah.
So we're going to share our Valentines with you guys. So we want you to share your Valentines with us.
Okay.
Send us a picture of you and your Valentine. Are you going to do anything special? I hope so. Because remember, February 14th is Valentine's Day, but March 14th, fellas, you know what day that is. If you don't, look it up, because that's our day. I have no problem with Valentine's Day being for her. As long as March 14th, Steak End Day is for us.
What is it?
I'm not saying it online.
Oh.
Monty says, you're having
we're
a
doing
show
the
on your first
yeah,
Valentine's Day together as a married couple. Yes, we are.
Yes,
well, we have to.
are.
It's Wednesday.
Sure.
You don't want to take it off, do you?
Oh, no.
Is Valentine's Day, because you made a couple of jokes now. Is Valentine's Day important? Do I have to do something special on Valentine's Day?
You do something special for me every day.
That's not what I asked.
You don't have to do anything, sweetheart. Like, you really don't.
Let's take a vote. How many of y'all believe
Kisses and... It's true. To me, it is a Hallmark holiday.
Yes, it is.
Like MacMan says.
MacMan, Men's Valentine's Day. Exactly. March 14th is Men's Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that before.
Yes, you have. I told you.
Oh.
It's Steak and Day.
Steak and... Oh.
Click. You see, you saw the light come on, didn't you?
I didn't know it. I was like,
you actually saw
steak and... Oh, steak and... ... Fill in the blank. I got it.
And...
But you don't. That doesn't mean much to you. You don't want to... Okay. We'll get you a steak.
That's it for tonight's show, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining us. I've been Shawn King.
And I'm Melissa King.
You've been listening to your Mac Life See ya.